Hey everyone, welcome to the Essentials channel. Today we are going to talk about the 2025 blockbuster project that everybody has been waiting for. This just reminds me of what happened last year, like everybody was waiting for Chuan Park, EOK, so on and so forth. So today of course we are going to talk about Springleaf Residences. Will it spring or will it leave? Alright, so as usual, I'm very appreciative of all the audiences out there that has been supporting the channel. The channel has been growing steadily, and every time when I see the viewership go up, I know I'm benefiting the lives and empowering so many people out there. So in order to keep me motivated, remember to like, share and subscribe. Of course, feel free to leave your comments below so that I can interact with you, or reach out to me at 9456-9398 and I will be just a phone call or a message away. Alright, so without further ado, as always, we will run through Springleaf Residences in this following framework and structure. First of all, the rapid fire info, followed by the site plan and floor plan analysis, why I will not buy Springleaf, why I will buy Springleaf, and then a quick price analysis, and of course the final verdict. Before we move on to the rapid fire information, here are the artist's impression of this wonderful project called Springleaf Residences. Now we start off with the rapid fire information. Total number of units is 941 units, with 909 units at the 5 residential tower, 32 units at the conserved buildings. Yes, you're right, there is a conserved building there, and it is the school. Even the track and the field is still there for you all to make circles and run around within your own development. Alright, so the land size is 344,700 square feet, 99 years with effect 15 July 2024, estimated TOP is second half of 2029. The main addresses are blocks 811 to 821 Upper Thomson Road. Total 759 car park lots, consisting of 753 car park lots and 6 accessible car park lots at basement 1 and 2. Overall, 75% of the total number of units have a car park lot, and that is actually quite impressive given that we are right beside the MRT, and of course depending on the zoning in URA itself, if you are car light zone, so on and so forth, there is a limitation to how many car parks you have, but surprisingly the developers are very generous with this development that they are able to give you at least about 75% of the development's units car park, which is very impressive given that you're right beside the MRT. Alright, so number of EV lots to cater to the future. Alright, 8 lots at basement 1, and number of bicycle lots 236. Given the location of the development, we will expect a lot of nature lovers as well as outgoing residents. So allocating 236 lots of bicycle lots is actually quite generous of the developer as well. So the developer is naturally Gukoland and Hong Leong, as everybody knows. Before we head to the site plan and floor plan analysis, first we look at the unit distribution. So we have a total number of 332 units of 2 bedrooms, which accounts for 35% of the development. 3 bedrooms, we have 164 units. 3 bedroom flex, we have 121 units. 3 bedroom flex plus household shelter, 83 units. 4 bedroom plus household shelter, 138 units. 5 bedrooms plus household shelter, 71 units. Right, so seeing this unit mix is actually very comforting because more than 63% of the development itself is catered to 3, 4 and 5 bedrooms. Like what I always mentioned before, if you are going to buy something in the mass market or OCR region, then recognizing the demand, the nature of your demand is the most important, and this time around the developer has got it right, because in this whole area, this is definitely something that people are always going for, the homestay demand. So if something that meets their own stay needs, there will always be natural demand, and in that sense, there will always be a sustainable pricing. There is no 1 bedrooms in this development to dilute your pricing. The smallest units to begin with is already a 2 bedroom, which is actually a very good thing to have. Why I say this is because at least it caters to small families or people who are starting out with their building capital journey. Yes, you can go ahead and buy a smaller unit. I know out there everybody is preaching to say if you can squeeze, you squeeze for a 3 bedroom, but otherwise, am I right to say real estate is a journey? Alright, if you have not enough, buy something that you feel you are comfortable with, that you are able to afford comfortably as well. If it is a small stretch, go for it. But sometimes I see people going that extra mile by borrowing money from their parents, doing this or doing that, so many other patterns and tricks just so that they can afford the 3 bedroom. In Singapore, real estate is a long-term gain and a long-term plan. Alright, so if you really cannot, never mind, just start off with a 2 bedroom, because it is a building capital journey. The ecosystem is already formed. The good thing is there is still a natural need for 2 bedrooms, because there are always families that are total number of 3 packs, maybe 4 packs that can fit into a 2 bedroom. Alright, those that are upgrading, those that start start off young, a young family that are okay to stay in a 2-bedroom because that is just the size that they need at their current state of life. So it's okay to go for the 2 bedrooms, and with that in mind, there are 332 units here. Won't dilute the pricing, there is still a natural need, and thus I believe this unit mix will actually keep prices sustainable. Then on the sides, we have a conservation building which used to be a school. Right, there's about 8 units of 1 bedroom, 8 units of 2 bedroom, and 16 units of 3 bedrooms. Whoever that is getting this, if your ballot number is very good, it is something heritage to keep, and it's something that is very unique and very niche in the market. Drawing some comparison, it would be the Avenue South Residences, where within first day the conservation building was actually sold out on the first day, and today they still reap very strong profits. It is because the younger generations are always going for something that has character, that has some heritage to it, and if it meets their livability needs, then of course this is something to own that can last maybe a longer period of time because of its nicheness and rarity in today's market. Of course, depending on the kind of style and the kind of character that you like, this may or may not be suitable for you. So moving forward, this is the maintenance fees in a nutshell for yourself. Alright, if you realize because it's allocated by sizes and share value, the 2 bedrooms and the 3 bedrooms all have the same maintenance fee, except for the smaller 2 bedrooms because the size is smaller. But otherwise, $330 across the board. This is an opportunity for you to identify. 4 bedrooms is $385, 5 bedrooms is also $385. Alright, it is similar in the conserved building as well. Alright, so now we move on to the site plan and floor plan analysis. Here we have the site plan of Springleaf Residences. I think Guko Land and Hong Leong, drawing from their previous successes in Lentor Central Residences. If you observe Lentor Central Residences, all of them have very good views. They tend to choose projects that face the park or face the forest or general nature. Alright, and the good thing is this, they always make sure or ensures that the units always get a little bit of the water feature if they are not getting the park views or forest views. So why do I say that? It's because you have, here is the site plan for you. You have blocks 811, 813, 815, 817 and 819. You can see from blocks 811, the front portion, stacks 3, 4, 5 and 6 will face the conservation school side. That if you go for the higher floors, you will look out to see the future land parcel as well as the Springleaf Forest. But if you're on the other side of things like stack 2, 1, 8 and 7, right, you would lose that forest view. But it's okay, if you're on the low floors, you will get the water feature views down here, followed by the green portion, which is the internal landscaping. Alright, so you can see how thoughtful the developer is in ensuring that everybody gets a good piece of view. Alright, so either they replace it with something to compensate for the loss of the forest view, or they will give you a water feature view for the different stacks. Alright, we have 813 following the similar concept. If you go for the higher floors in stack 11, 12, 13 and 14, you will probably get the widest setback between the blocks, and if you are stack 13 and 14, probably you will still get a portion of the forest view. Alright, next you have stacks 10, 9, 16 and 15. Of course, you are 45 meters away from the Seletar Expressway. I would think that the developer will be placing the lowest price units in this block itself because this is the one that is closest to the highway and is probably the noisiest. But then again, if you are the low floors, you would then enjoy the internal landscaping as well. Alright, next we have the block 815. Stack 19, stack 20, 21 and 22 will be facing the opposite blocks of 817 and 819. Of course, if you go for the lower floors, you get the pool view, which everybody will consider this as a good permanent view to have. If you go for the high floors, then naturally you'll be looking at the neighbors a little bit. On the opposite side, stack 18, 17, 24 and 25 also will get the Seletar Expressway. But is this such a deal breaker? I think based on previous projects that we have used as examples, such as Clavon, such as Clement Canopy, as well as Penrose, it all boils down to the entry price as well. If the price gap is big enough for the non-premium facing versus the premium facing, the non-premium units can still profit very substantially as well. So if you look at Penrose, those that are along the highway that has a much lesser setback than what we have here at Springleaf Residences, they are still very profitable, with the 3 bedrooms making more than 500k within a short period of 3 years. It all boils down to livability, the layouts, as well as the entry price. Next, we have the block 817. This is probably the most premium block, as well as 819. Why do we say that? It's because from stack 27 all the way until 38, that whole stretch would get the Springleaf Forest. But like what we say, God is always fair, alright, because you gain some, you lose some. By looking at the Springleaf Forest, you are also exposed to the northwest sun. So luckily it is not pure west, but still the northwest angle, depending on the time of the year, can be quite intense in that sense. So you gain a very nice forest view, but you also get a little bit of the west sun. So some people, depending on their preferences, they will mention that, hey, this is good because their feng shui need to have west sun, and behind and in front of them is the greenery, the nature is there, good feng shui. Perhaps. Some people would say that the unit will get very hot. So for those that are more concerned about the heat from the sun, you can install UV films on your window panel so that you can reduce the amount of heat that is coming into the house. There are things that you can do with it. But most importantly, based on my personal experience as a realtor, I've seen people that are able to accept the west sun, and just because they get the much better views. Take me for an example. My house faces northwest. Honestly, I'll get a little bit of the west sun at a diagonal angle, but because I face the greenery at the Nassim side of things, the Nassim Napier side of things, where all the embassies are, I enjoy that full unblocked view of greenery and tranquility. It is something that I would not get in other places, especially in the location where I stay, which is in Orchard. So there are some compromises that these people are able to accept and make. Doesn't mean that it is a west orientation, then it is a big deal breaker, but all boils down to your preferences as well. Of course, on the other side, you have stacks 26, 25, 32, 31, 34, 33, 40 and 39 that faces the opposite building of block 815. Again, the lower floors will get the very nice pool views, but the high floors will then tend to look into the neighbors. Alright, so for block 811, alright, for those stack 3, 4, 5, 6, because you are facing towards the conservation school site, the conservation school site is of lower levels. I think if I'm not wrong, it's about 5 to 6 levels. With that in mind, anything above the 6th floor will actually clear the building and you will get a nice view of the landscaping, else you will get the views of the forest views. Overall, I think this is a very well laid out site plan, nothing to complain about. The developer has done its best to mitigate the disadvantages of this site itself, such as the highway or the west sun. They even angle it differently to try to avoid the west orientation, but to get you the full panoramic views of the forest. Definitely for this project itself, they will always make the facilities as extensive as possible. You would have a tennis court. Here are all the facilities that are available. Take note, there is also a side gate that leads directly to Springleaf MRT, sheltered all the way. Now we move on to the floor plan analysis. For concise purposes, we will be leaving out the conservation floor plans because it is very limited numbers. If you happen to be the lucky one, please go ahead, but otherwise we'll just be focusing on the main blocks and the main units that are in Springleaf Residences. So first we start off with the 2-bed 1-bath, 527 square feet. Entering from the main entrance itself, alright, you get your galley kitchen. After that, you'll be entering into your dining area, your living area, and then the 2 bedrooms on the side with a master bath that comes with a Jack and Jill toilet. Straightforward, a 4 square meter balcony, which they have kept the size very small so that not much wasted space. A 2.8 meter wide living room with a 4.7 meter length living room. I think this is very ideal, very livable. The key thing is livability, and I think small families are able to live in this. If you are starting off with your first property and you are single or a couple, I think this is actually quite ideal, and it can actually serve as a stepping stone to your building capital process. So this stack itself comes in stack 9, 16, 17, 24 and 32. They mainly faced, one stack would actually face the pool view, the other 4 stacks will actually face the Seletar Highway. Next we have the other type B2, 646 square feet, 2 bedrooms. Entering the main entrance, you will have a recessed area kitchen, alright, that is like an L shape. It's good because you can actually enclose it. Like what I always mentioned before, whenever you buy a 2 bedrooms, the best is there is a way or a method or a customization to be able to enclose it, and this is something that has made the layout very, very effective. Moving forward, your dining, living with the 2 bedrooms on each side. Your master bedroom is 10 square meters, your second bedroom is 9 square meters with a balcony of 5 square meters. Both comes with the toilet running in parallel to the bedrooms. You can really turn this. Basically, these 2 bedrooms both are a suite on its own. Key thing to take note, this is hackable walls, meaning to say if you ever want to expand the space, you can. This is in stack 1, 4, 13, 21, 29, 33, 36, 37 and 40. Alright, so you got a mixture of views down here. Most of them are actually facing the north views, alright, meaning to say that there are a few stacks that actually get the forest view, there are a few stacks that face the south will get the pool view, and then of course you have one stack in block 811 that actually has a wide setback, the furthest setback away from the Seletar Expressway. Next we have the type BC1, 2 bedroom, 592 square feet. Entering from the main entrance, you got this very big L-shaped kitchen, and then of course we move forward to the dining area, the living, as well as the master bedroom and the 2 bedroom dumbbell layout. Alright, the difference between these two is, one, your kitchen is visible within your living room. Right, this one, it's just a little bit of a different imagination. Imagine walking into this house, you get this very big open rectangular space. Alright, this is what the developer is trying to do with this layout. Alright, rather than having more fragmentation within the layout, this one just gives you a full rectangle, and how you want to use the space and customize it is entirely up to you. Personally, based on what I understand on the ground for future resaleability issues, I think type B2 and B1 would actually fare better in the resale market rather than this kind of layout, right? Why? Because it is hard to enclose the kitchen. if you start enclosing the kitchen, you will be eating into the dining area space, meaning to say you won't have space for your dining area. So this one puts us in a very awkward position. Anyway, this was just a quick description of the 2-bedroom in the conservation area. Bonus for you, although I say I wouldn't want to go through it, but okay, here, accidental bonus for you. Here we have the 3-bedroom type C1, 786 square feet. Alright, so what is this thing about the Springleaf Residences? Basically, they adopted the same winning formula that they had at Lentor Mansions. You will see almost close to direct replica of what they do, from the materials used, in terms of the vinyl flooring, in terms of the building design, in terms of their layouts as well. Alright, because they understand that quantum is at play in today's market, and thankfully for harmonization, that's why they are able to provide a smaller unit but yet more efficient layout that meets the livability needs. Yeah, you may be taken aback that a 3-bedroom is 786 square feet, but in actual fact, is it livable? It is, because once we look at the layout itself, it's in the right places. Walking in from the main entrance, you got a L-shaped kitchen that tucks at the right bottom corner. If you want to separate it out, dissect that space here and carve it out, you can actually do that glass panels so that you can have that designated space for the kitchen area. Moving forward, you have your dining, you have your living, bedroom 3 on the left with the 2 bedrooms on the right with the toilets running in parallel against each other. I think if you are starting out with, if small families or even medium-sized families that are starting out and they want to make this jump to private, this is a good layout to go for. Or if you're a first-time buyer, I think you can kickstart your building capital journey with this layout so that you don't have to break the banks but still meet your family needs. I think slowly the society as well as the consumers are able to accept a 3-bedroom below 800 square feet, given that today it is the harmonization era. So last time as agents, we used to be very afraid when we see 3 bedrooms that are below 800 square feet, because we know it is not going to be livable. The resaleability is going to be very, very difficult. In fact, as a consumer or even as an agent myself, I made a slight mistake when Lentor Mansion was launching, and I actually made a judgment that the 3-bedroom compact, which is of a similar size, was not going to sell out because of our previous past bad experience that we had with 3 bedrooms below 800 square feet. But of course, we learn from our lessons, and I as a consumer today has also broadened my vision and eyes to take into consideration the harmonization effects that actually opens up so many more options to the consumers in today's market. Especially our government's vision is the focus on affordability. So maintaining the price efficient today is one thing, but most importantly, is it livable? As long as it is livable, there will always be an exit. Next, we have the Type C2, 3 bedrooms, 818 square feet. Walking in from the main entrance, you have that foyer space, probably for more storage needs or shoe cabinets. Same thing, they replicate the same kind of kitchen. You still get an open concept kitchen, but do take note, it is a 3.1 meter wide living room, very impressive, with a 7-meter long living room. Now you can imagine how effective or at least spacious this space is going to be. Alright, 7 meters, if you have been to Tembusu Grand or various show flats like Nava Grove, those are 7-meter living room space. You can really fit in a 6-seater dining right in vertically, and having a 3.1 meter living room is actually very, very comfortable. You can fit in a nice sofa with a coffee table in the center, as well as a good wall-to-wall distance between your TV and sofa. Right, this is the traditional 3-bedroom layout. All bedrooms are 9 square meter with the master bedroom at 12 square meter with the toilets running in parallel against it. Mainly stacks 10 and 18. This stacks itself face the Seletar Expressway. Next, we have Type C3, which is the 3-bedroom flex. Walking in from your main entrance, they provide you with a dry kitchen and a wet kitchen of 5 square meters. There is this flex portion, which is a 4 square meters. It can act as your study or it can act as your domestic helper's room. Alright, next, of course, you got your 7.3 meter living room and a 3.1 meter wide living room. Traditional layout with the 3 bedrooms running in parallel to the toilet. Alright, mainly they are stacked 2 and 14. This is 904 square feet. Alright, so now our 3-bedroom complex has 3 variations. Alright, they are getting slowly slightly bigger and bigger, either providing you with more space in the living room or separate kitchen or a flexible space that can meet your family needs depending on your preferences. Next, we have Stack 31, which is a 3-bedroom flex as well. This time around, it's slightly bigger at 926 square feet. Probably everything else is the same with a slightly longer foyer area. To me, this layout itself is there's only one stack that faces the pool. Alright, I think this one should be on the lower ranking order. If you can choose like stacks 2 and 14, I think it'll be better because you wouldn't be paying for unnecessary space such as the longer foyer area. If you have a lot more shoes, then maybe this might actually be a more effective layout for you, but I don't know how much more you want to pay just to store some extra shoes. Alright, so next we have another Type C5, 926 square feet. It is in Stack 23 itself. It's the one that faces the Seletar Expressway. We have this Type C6, which is 958 square feet. Alright, everything else is similar except got for one small little disadvantage. The third bedroom suddenly becomes 8 square meters. Everything else is the same except for a much longer foyer space. I guess because of the unit positioning itself, they have no choice but to make that longer foyer space. Maybe we can look at it as a bonus that gives you a little bit more privacy into the unit. Take note for all the 3-bedroom flats, alright, they are all corner units and that's why they will get windows in the toilets as well as the kitchen area. This unit itself, it's in a very special location. It is in one of the premium blocks, but however, it will get a little bit of the Seletar Expressway as well. Okay, so I think this one, if you're choosing your units that time, type C6 may not be the best. This should be in a lower ranking order when you're balloting for your unit. Next, we have type C7, 3-bedroom plus flats plus the home shelter. Right now, we are heading into the bigger units. This is 1023 square feet. Entering from the main entrance, you get your dry kitchen area, alright, and then of course you got your wet kitchen, and then you get the 8.25 meter living room with a 3.1 meter wide living room. Alright, and then the balcony space is kept to 5 square meter, very optimal. 3 bedrooms all on the left with the toilets running in parallel to it. We have the flex, right, just cascaded across bedroom 2, and then the bomb shelter opposite of bedroom 3. A very traditional 3 bedrooms, but because of the way they structure this, it may have pushed the corridor to be a little bit longer, but it does provide you with a little bit more customization, because depending on where you want to adjust your master bedroom door, you can put it after the flex so that you can eat that space in to form a walk-in wardrobe. But otherwise, we can just leave it as it is so that it acts as a study for your bedroom 2 and bedroom 3 children, kids, whatever it is. For this layout itself, it actually comes with a powder room at the entrance. So it actually brings out a little bit more upmarket feels and vibes to it, because this is what you'll be getting in the CCR projects where the powder room is there for the bigger units. Alright, so this one is stacks 11, 19 and 27. So you got one stack that faces the Springleaf forest, and then of course the other 2 that faces internally the landscaping as well as the pool view. Next, we have the 3-bedroom plus flex plus home shelter type C8. You got a much longer foyer here. Alright, and then of course the size is 1076 square feet, stack 7. There's only one stack. Basically everything else is the same except for that longer foyer. This is in block 811, stack 7, which has the furthest distance and setback away from the Seletar Expressway. But to me, this should be your second choice, right, during your balloting. Of course, if you don't have and you miss out on the first choice, it's okay, faster go for this, because at least the livability factors are met. There will still be future demand that contributes to your exit strategy, and likely this one will be priced cheaper or the same because of the bigger size 1076 square feet as compared to just now 1023 square feet. Next is the 3-bedroom type CC1. Alright, this is in the conservation. See for yourself moving forward. CC2 is also in the conservation. See for yourself. Now we move on to the 4 bedrooms type D1, which is a 1227 square feet, stack 3, 6, 22, 35 and 39. Basically a good mixture, but most of the time the best views will always go to the 3-bedroom premiums and 4 bedrooms. Alright, you got your stacks that face the Springleaf forest, the 2 stacks that face the pool view, and then of course the other 2 stacks that faces the conservation school. Alright, but you go for the higher floors, you'll get a good setback from the future site and also a good glimpse of the forest in front. Alright, walking in from the main entrance, you got your dry kitchen, wet kitchen, bomb shelter, a 9.35 meters long living room with 3.2 meters wide living room. Honestly, everybody, like what I always mentioned before, whenever you go for a 4-bedroom, it's best that you can actually get a landscape layout. But now, I think ever since harmonization happened, alright, they found it the most optimal way is to provide a 4-bedroom portrait layout. The key question to ask is, do you really need a 9.35 meters long living room? Alright, that is actually very long. Alright, and you know, we are all about natural light. Having such a long living room, can the natural light even reach the dry kitchen area or where your dining area is going to be? It is very, very questionable. Alright, and but anyway, it's still livable. We make do with what we have. There will always be demand for a 4-bedroom because anyway, the general supply in the entire Singapore is low. Alright, and people who are upgrading, right, who needs the bedrooms, naturally they will accept it as what it is and they will buy. So there will always be exit strategy, but I'm just trying to nitpick here to tell you what I feel is ideal. Alright, so the good thing here is this: moving into the bedroom area, they cascade the second bedroom downwards so that your corridor space will remain shorter. You got your master bedroom, your bedroom 2, 3, 4, all situated in that portion of the layout. Alternatively, alright, because of this construction method they have adopted, you can of course hack down the walls of bedroom 4 to create that kind of landscape layout, and then of course you have your separated dining area. That will probably bring in more natural light, but the key question to ask is, then this is just going to be a very big 3-bedroom. Is that practical or not? Alright, so next we have the 4-bedroom 1227 square feet D2 layout. Everything else is similar. with the different orientation of the powder room. That's it. This stack itself, you have one stack in block 813 facing Seletar Expressway, which is stack 15. Next, we move on to the 5 bedrooms, 1453 square feet, stack 30 and 34. This is pretty similar to what I saw in Lentor Mansion. Alright, as we move in, we get the powder room, we got the bomb shelter, there's 7.8 living room and a 3.2 meter wide living room. You got one junior master on the left with all the other 4 bedrooms on the right. Basically, this is a similar layout to the 4 bedrooms, just that on the opposite portion, they added an extra bedroom, which is the junior suite. Alright, again, we can hack the living room, alright, to make it a landscape layout. But then again, you will be losing one room. Instead of a 5 bedroom, it becomes a mega size 4 bedroom. This is in stacks 30 and 34. One would face the Springleaf Forest, the other one will face the pool view. Next, we have an alternative version of a 5 bedroom, 1475 square feet. Stack 38 faces the Springleaf Forest. Similarly, coming in here, you get everything else is the same. So the only difference is this, the size difference is in the junior master, where in the 1453 square feet, you'll get a 12 square meter master. For 1475, you will get a 10 square meter master. Then of course, the living room space for the 1475 square feet is 8.7 meters. Not sure why you would want a longer living room again. It means that at the lower portion of your house, you'll be even darker, but it doesn't matter. I think people are slowly accepting this kind of layouts, and they are just replicating the same winning formula in Lentor Mansions. So basically, I think it is also they are following the consumer behaviors. So to all my consumers out there, I don't know what you are behaving, but yes, this is what you ask for and this is what you get. Alright, so if you hope that there is more landscape layout ones, probably you don't buy for them, but of course if you're able to accept this, then please go ahead. I still believe that this is still very livable, and I think and I believe it will still be a very, very strong blockbuster project, because there's just nothing much to choose from. Springleaf is going to be the last OCR development of 2025. So basically, for the floor plans, I don't think there's anything to complain about. They are just replicating the same winning formulas from Lentor Mansions. I look at the floor plans, it's exactly what I experienced 1 year ago where Lentor Mansion sold out. Alright, so I think judging from the consumer's behavior, the developer is also catering to the needs of the consumers, and I believe given the design, the structure of what Kuko Land is always giving, then be of course a natural selection for many consumers in Springleaf Residences. Alright, so now we move on to why I would not buy Springleaf Residences. Of course, to me, Springleaf Residences itself presents a very unique opportunity in 2025. It will be the blockbuster project, but here is me trying to nitpick as a consumer. The first pointer is the Mandai Crematorium. This may feel uncomfortable for some people, but I'm pretty sure that in Sengkang, in Punggol, in Bishan, so on and so forth, there's many heartland areas that has a columbarium as well as a crematorium near their estates. And anyway, people have learned to live with it, and it forms part of our daily lives. But for some, it might still be a little bit uncomfortable. But I have done my research, and of course, some of the feng shui masters actually told me that hey, having a columbarium nearby actually means that it is a Wang Di. Alright, which is kind of true, because if you take a look at a few examples like Bishan, we have Guangmingshan, and can you see how flourishing it is in that area? Alright, you can see because of Aitong Primary School, the surrounding developments there such as Gardens and Bishan, so on and so forth, all still made very strong appreciation and profits. In fact, the Guangmingshan forms part of their views, and they are calling it a very clear, unblocked nature view of the surrounding, and people find that very livable as well. Alright, take for example Woodleigh Residences. Alright, that whole area is built on a cemetery, so is it really that detrimental? Alright, but of course, why I would not buy segment is always about highlighting the cons. But so far, I've did my survey and asked and spoke to a few of my consumers, my clients and friends. They say they are pretty much okay, because wherever that they stay used to have such thing anyway. So it's about the familiarity and of course getting accustomed to it. Okay, another example you also can see is Gem Residences. Right beside Gem Residence is also a temple that also acts as a columbarium. And like what I always hear before, columbariums are Wang Di. There's a reason why dead can rest. And in fact, if you look at the whole area of Toa Payoh, from Gem Residences to Trevista, all are making very, very strong profits. Same goes for Bishan, Guangmingshan and Xingming itself. So is it really that detrimental? It's up to you. Alright, number 2 is of course the expressway facing. Alright, so Springleaf Residences was marketed as the project that actually gets nature, gets all the peace, tranquility, the quiet environment. Those who are nature lovers would naturally be waiting for Springleaf Residences to launch. But this itself actually brings a disadvantage. It's also because it is right beside the Seletar Expressway. And we all know how dusty and how disruptive an expressway can be. Alright, and then you have Matthew Lam here driving a supercar, zooming past, and then you get to hear the exhaust of the cars. Alright, sometimes motorcycles have louder exhaust or louder motors, you get to hear it as well. Alright, so in a way, you may experience erratic pricing like what I always mentioned before, with the very strong facings pulling the prices up, but you also have the expressway that may actually pull the prices down. So given that this is a 900 unit development, alright, means that there are multiple stacks for different units, especially like the 3 bedrooms, alright, in a way it may dilute the pricing due to these erratic facings as well. So for the buyers, whenever they see the transactions that time, they may not be able to pinpoint properly, because if you are not familiar with the project, just by looking at numbers and you see so many different 3 bedroom stacks, suddenly you see some of the prices being higher, much higher, or some of the prices being much lower, you tend to have a question mark over your head. Why is there such a huge fluctuation? Only those that are familiar with the project, alright, then will know that the better facings are the ones with the forest views. Alright, but with that in mind, then it makes it difficult for buyers to pinpoint the consistency and the uniformity in terms of the transactions. And the thing is this, the forest views once brings along an additional disadvantage, which is the northwest facing. So not everybody can accept the heat or the west facing, and of course the general taboo is always to avoid anything that has a west orientation. Alright, of course with the younger generation buying properties today, it is less of a concern, but after all, it still affects the livability factors in a way, because it still does bring a little bit more heat into the house. Your families may not like it as much. So the good views have its disadvantage. The bad view ones, of course it faces south, but it gets the highway. So in a way, there may be some form of erratic pricing or concerns or uncertainty regarding the exit strategy of these units. Alright, so now we move on to why I will buy Springleaf Residences. I think this is the long-awaited blockbuster, so the first pointer will always be about the entry price. So given the supply pipeline that is coming up for the year 2025, if you're looking for a house or a brand new property to stay, alright, then in a way you are actually at the last project of the entire 2025 in terms of the OCR. I mean, there are a few more alternatives, which is Canberra Crescent Residences, which launched a previous week just before the Springleaf Residences launch, as well as Faber Residences, which is also an inaccessible location in the west area. So of course, finally, if you're looking for something that has an MRT that is within minutes walk away, with this kind of pricing, then naturally Springleaf Residences is the way to go. As announced within their newspaper article, they will be launching on an average of 1950 PSF. And with that in mind, given the smaller size units, it really does keep the quantum low, but yet capitalize on the harmonization effect. And of course, you are there as the first mover's advantage. Basically, you have fit the winning formula of real estate. Number one, it is affordable. Number two, it is livable. But most importantly, in order to find something that is beside the MRT, the key question to ask you is this: if it is beside the MRT, how much do you expect the pricing to be? Alright, most of you would already tell me that it's going to be 2.3 PSF, 2.7 PSF, 2.9 PSF, so on and so forth. Right, given Chuan Park itself, which is an OCR right beside the MRT, it has hit new heights at 2.8 to 2,900 per square foot. Now, if you are able to get something right beside the MRT, which is only at 1,950 per square foot starting from, isn't this a renewed opportunity for you to enter? Stop getting priced out, get one foot in. I understand it may not be the best location that you're looking for, but at least you are getting somewhere that has very clear accessibility. And right now, this is where the government is focusing all of its resources based on the Thomson East Coast Line effect. So if we look at the land sales itself, alright, if we take Canberra Crescent Residences, which was launched 1 week ago from the Springleaf Residence launch, they are also launching at 1950 PSF. Alright, so meaning to say, a slightly further location with no MRT access or further away MRT access versus something that's closer to city, which is Springleaf Residences right beside the MRT. Isn't this a strong enough value proposition for you? Further away from MRT, further away from city, costing the same price as something that is nearer to the city, nearer to the MRT. Isn't this a renewed first mover's advantage for you? But most importantly, it contributes to our next point, which is the transformation phase, which I'll cover in our second point. But if we look at the site itself, this is your rare window of opportunity, because right beside Springleaf Residences will be the Springleaf Site A, which will be a mixed development. Because you are just on top of the MRT, naturally the government's plan has always been to build a mixed development on top of the MRT to maximize the whole site on its own. And with that in mind, this is the upcoming GLS nearby, which is also forming your potential price support. You have 3 more plots of GLS or more than 500 meters away from the MRT. Further away distance, and you know that future lands are going to sell higher. With that in mind, you are the first movers advantage in Springleaf, and the future plots will actually set new benchmarks for you. Like what they always say, because there's movement in the area, there will always be momentum, and it drives hype to this area. It will form your resale buyers audience. For Site A itself, the Mixed D will likely be launching tender in June 2025. So in addition, for the pricing wise, we want to make a comparison to Norwood Grand. So if we look at the Norwood Grand for the 2 bedrooms itself, the 2 bedrooms started from 1983 PSF for the 624 square feet, 2005 PSF for the 667 square feet, and then the 710 square feet 2010 PSF. The 3 bedrooms started from 2004 PSF, the 883 square feet 3 bedrooms started from 1924, the 904 square feet 3 bedrooms started from 1989. For the 4 bedrooms 1173 square feet, it started from 1907 PSF. Alright, so do take note, Norwood Grand itself is considered a medium-rise building. It's not a high-rise building. Alright, as compared to Springleaf itself, it is of course the tallest residential within Springleaf Residences. But you can see the similarity in prices. Closer to city, yet cheaper, or the same as further away from city. Of course, if we tell people that you stay in Springleaf, definitely it sounds a lot closer than whatever that you have at Woodlands already. And here are the starting prices of Springleaf, where we get 2 bedrooms 527 square feet at 1.078 mil 2046, a 3 bedroom at 2058 PSF, a 4 bedroom at 1895 PSF, and a 5 bedroom at 2077 PSF. Basically pretty similar for a much bigger plot of land, a much more extensive facilities, and of course with better livability in check. Right, second, why I will buy Springleaf Residences. We are in the heart of the transformation phase. So like what I always mentioned before, announcement, completion, infrastructure. I think you hear until sian already. Right, so if you look at the TEL line itself, right, the Springleaf station actually opened up in the year of 2021 August. And with that in mind, it's impossible for the government to just open a station and leave it empty. So naturally, drawing the likes of Woodleigh Residences, that was exactly what happened. The minute the Woodleigh MRT, it took quite a while for Woodleigh MRT to open up because the plans weren't drawn up yet. But the minute it opened up, the next few years came the Bidadari estates, and then the following years came the mall as well as the residence itself. Can we see a similar pattern happening here? Basically right now, Springleaf Residences, it has finally reached their turn. It is the infrastructure phase where the government is planning to bring in the township, the infrastructure, going for the residential units, followed by the mixed developments to build a township in this area. Basically, this is also where you will experience the fastest exponential growth, as this is the part where with infrastructure is created, population will be brought in. With population being brought in, that means there is also natural demand, and with natural demand, your prices will become sustainable. So the key thing to take note why the government is focusing so much here as well is because there's only 330 landed units here with not much HDB inside. Alright, but all in all, what is this township going to cater to? This is going to cater to the Northern Gateway transformation. Alright, basically if you are staying in Woodlands, Sembawang, so on and so forth, you don't really have a place to upgrade to. The next place is to move towards Bishan area, but Bishan prices are too high. So is there some place and an area that can actually fill this void? Springleaf may actually be the special one that fills the void, because you can totally see all the demographics from Sembawang, Yishun, as well as the top far north Woodlands area that will be able to move closer to city. There is societal progression being created, and you must understand that people always look for livability, and they have always been used to nature. Alright, so probably by anticipating what the government vision is, being in the Sembawang area or being in the Woodlands area, sometimes accessibility may not be such a good thing in those areas. Alright, so finally they are moving closer to city. Springleaf is close to nature, it fits their needs, but most importantly this time round it brings in the MRT station as well. Now we move on to the third point why I will actually buy Springleaf Residences, the demand and supply. So here I have a chart where we actually have a consolidation of the HDB upgraders in the north, just to depict the constant demand to support the price growth in these areas. Right, HDB 5-room MOP prices in the north is already transacting at 900k, indicating that there is possible affordability increment from these areas as well, and Springleaf Residence will cater to this price void, but not only that, the increasing demand for societal progression to happen. So now we come to the final verdict of Springleaf Residences. So as always, we will always be gauging based on the exit strategy of this development. I think with the lack of supply in the supply pipeline in 2025, that also will be a reflection in the future supply pipeline 4 years down the road when you are about to sell. Alright, and that would mean that if we are facing an undersupply in today's market, likelihood 4 years later, it will be a reflection of whatever that is happening in the current situation. So first of all, of course, if you realize actually the exit strategy, what everybody may be concerned about is the expressway facing and whether will it affect livability and bring down the prices of the development. Actually may not be so true, because based on previous experiences, we have the Clement Canopy where the non non-highway facing would have made 300 plus to 500k. The highway facing ones actually made about 300 to 700,000. Alright, so it's also depending on the livability factors, the layout itself. So who says that highway would mean that it will actually cause you to lose money, right? In actual fact, because sometimes the highway itself, people tend to get used to it. Sometimes HDB blocks itself, so many of the HDB blocks itself, whether are you in Punggol, in Sengkang, in Clementi, you face the highway itself as well. So generally the population is already accustomed and used to staying inside. So this may not be affecting it that much or be that detrimental in that sense. As long as the layouts like what we see here, whether it's in Clement Canopy, so on and so forth, are actually very livable and good, I think people can actually make this compromise and make this sacrifice. Most importantly, whether there is a very good entry price gap for those that are not having a premium facing or premium view. Alright, next we also have Normanton Park itself, where we have the highway facing, which are like 764 square feet, 2 bedrooms. They all made about 180k to 250k. The non-highway facing also made about 150k to 250k. Maybe a slight difference of 20 to 30,000, but the lower entry price does get you this affordability into a project like Springleaf Residences. So thus, in that sense, it does have that counterbalance as well. Same, we have Penrose, which is an example that I used before. We can see that there is a whole row of stack 8, 9, 1, 2, 17, 18, 10 and 11. If we look at those stacks itself, most of them are profitable. The 2 bedroom 646 square feet will have a profit of generally about 300,000. 947 square feet 3 bedroom have a profit of about 500 to 600,000. The 936 square feet about 500k as well. So who says that the ones facing the highway will actually not be profitable? Actually, if you look at the examples listed down here, with Penrose being even closer to the highway, just running in parallel against it, right beside it, are still able to profit. Am I right to say the livability factors actually take more priority as compared to the facing? Like I said before, these are upgraders that we are catering to. So in a way, upgraders based on where they come from, some of them actually have HDBs along the highways that they grew up being very used to and accustomed to. And of course, their livability factors as well as lifestyle factors improve by moving to something like Springleaf. I think it's really a good trade-off, and especially they are already trained to stay in something like that for since young. Of course, then everybody's concern will also be the school. Alright, actually we have many other developments that doesn't have the school factor in place and they still make very good profit. So take for example Normanton Park, which doesn't have a school within 1 kilometer. The highest profit can go up to 762k, alright, with a range of average of 500 to 700k. So who says that we need to have schools? After all, everywhere is a good school in Singapore. So if you exceed that 1 kilometer and you don't have that school factor, in a way you'll be allocated to the nearest school that is available depending on whatever that the MOE allocates us with. But the key thing to take note is this: the livability factor is still the key factor that will affect the demand, alright, rather than about the school factor. And most of the time we have this 80-20 rule where it also applies to the population as well. 80% of them will stay in HDB, 20% will get to move into private or upgrade into private. There are other developments that have no school but still make very, very decent profits. So we have Normanton Park itself, which made about 762k with an average of 500k. We have also Kent Ridge Hill Residences. There is no school within 2 kilometers, but yet they are right beside or near an MRT, similar to the dynamics of Springleaf Residences. And you can see from there, they are also profitable in that sense, with all the 2 bedrooms still making a profit of average 200k. Alright, so with that in mind, these factors are still acceptable. Alright, but the most important key factor is of course the livability. And what I see here at Springleaf, and of course observing the master plan, there are many plans to conserve the forest. I'm sure they will make this a very conducive environment to stay in, with the touch of nature as well as a residential area with amenities. And like what I said, there is a Springleaf MRT down here. The government wouldn't just be leaving it so empty. There would definitely be infrastructure, amenities, and that is your next advantage to come. So get into the first movers advantage of Springleaf Residences because of the lack of supply, because of the amenities, because it is a short drive away to Lentor area which we can leverage on as well. I actually give this development an 8.5 out of 10. This is the blockbuster of the year. If you are able to ballot for your good units, please get ahead, right? Because next year is going to be setting a new benchmark of prices with new lands being sold coming out in next year launches, and with that in mind, it's going to set a new benchmark of prices coming up. So if you are already being priced out by the market, this is something for you, with a renewed opportunity for you to re-enter the market and ride on this wave. So we have come to the end of this analysis. I hope you found this helpful. Most importantly, if you want to go and take a look at the show flat, consult me how to choose your units to maximize your exit strategy. Please feel free to contact me at 94569398 or comment below so that I can continue this interaction with you. Remember to like, share and and subscribe to the Essentials channel.